And oh, actually, I have good news. I have asked management and they said I can keep all the VODs on my channel. I am going to have all my stuff on my channel so you can watch it at any time. Yeah. So I'm sorry if anybody already started like archiving my channel. I mean, you still probably should. You never know what happens in the future, but yay, we can have everything. Although I think they will disable my memberships after a certain while. So I don't even know if you'd be able to access the member content. Usually like memberships have to go down a certain amount of time. It's just logistically, it's too much trouble, right? To keep them up. That's not even a thing of like, that's just natural kind of, YouTube itself disables. Oh, I wish Twitch did that. I wish Twitch, if you didn't stream for a while, disabled membership. Forever, ever, 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 ever. I mean, you know, forever as long as Nijisanji wants them up. Forever, but, you know, with a little caveat of like, well, I don't make the final rules and decisions, you know? Usually I just stick with my buddy and I try... Okay. Okay. Nobody saw this. I've had the best time. And I hope you know that. And I really believe we have created such a positive and welcoming community. I've talked about communities a lot within Nijisanji EN, and so often people have said, oh, the honey bunnies are just so sweet and so lovely. And we are kind of a very chill community. We don't really pick fights. We just kind of hang out. You know, one time, actually, talking about the mom thing, Elira asked me ages ago, she's like, Nina, how did you decide to be mom? And I told her, I'm like, you know, Elira, I have been mom for as long as I can remember. When I was growing up, my father was in a wheelchair. So from a very young age, I had to do a lot of, I guess, grown-up things, right? Where I would have to cook, I would have to feed, I would have to do all that stuff. And then also not having any siblings. If my parents had friends over or people over, which they usually did, I always just kind of was with them. And yeah, even after that, I just always kind of developed this. I like taking care of people. Actually, so many times Etheria had to be like, Nina, stop. You've done enough. Sometimes I do go a little out of the way. I've gotten very much better at not going too much out of the way for somebody, right? It's a lot better now that I'm a lot more grown up and I can kind of recognize people a little bit better. But when I was younger, right, I would get these friends that every day was an emergency. Every week was an emergency. And I would drop everything I was doing just to go help them because it's an emergency. You know, of course I'm going to help them. And why wouldn't I? But now I don't really have those people in my life where everything is always an emergency. I do, you know, I love to help people and I'm always there and I always want to help. But if it's always an emergency, it can't, you know, people also need to kind of help themselves and figure things out. I read people fairly well and fairly quickly, but I give people chances. And I'll give you this example, right? Where somebody could, you know, do me wrong or not be a very kind person to me. But then if I find out that something bad happened to them, I still will have the thought of, I should message them. Even if I'm not emotionally connected to this person, I still want to do what I feel is the right thing. And to me, the right thing would be to reach out and be like, hey, sorry you're going through a hard time. Sorry to hear. I know we're not very close, but just letting you know I'm here if you need anything. I always think to myself, if the roles were reversed, how would I want somebody to treat me? Being kind is hard. I don't think so. Kind to people is not difficult. It's, I guess, not being upset that others don't give it back to you, if that makes sense. Because obviously we're not being kind because, okay, I've given you 3 kindness, you give me 2 kindness back, okay? But eventually it still feels like, you know, if you're very kind and people know you as somebody very kind, sometimes you think to yourself like, oh, why haven't people been kind to me? I think that's very human and very normal that if you're always kind, eventually you do somewhat expect the world to be kind to you as well. And sometimes in life, when you're friends with people for a really long time, and I'm talking 10 years, right? Sometimes in friendship, you're the one that's giving a lot more. And then things will shift, and then maybe your friend's the one that's giving a lot more, and you're the one that's taking a lot more. For example, one of my really, really close friends, she's having a really tough year. Her job's not really working out for her, and she's not sure if she should switch over or do something else. And every time we've spent time together, it was always me listening and me being there. I'm happy to be there for her. But also, a few years back, it was completely the opposite. She was always there for me. And I think when you're friends with people for a really, really long time, that ends up happening where you're gonna go through phases where somebody gives more and somebody takes more. And that's okay. Something that I love to use for myself when making a decision is I tell myself, would I like this done to me? I had something happen in Japan actually where I wanted to tell a friend something that was kind of bad news. After I told her, I ended up explaining, you know, I think if the roles were reversed, I would want you as my friend to tell me. And then, you know, so that's usually how I do it. But then you also have to remember what kind of person they are. If you're meeting with your friend and you're going to get a bubble tea, think about it. You're about to meet your friend, so you get them a bubble tea. If the roles were reversed and your friend was meeting you, would it make you happy if your friend brought you a little bubble tea? But maybe the friend you're going to meet does not like bubble tea and watches their figure, and even though they love gifts, they do not want a bubble tea. I really genuinely believe that if you have good communication, you can work through everything. I think communication and also understanding. Because sometimes your friend will say something and it will hurt you. Sometimes your friend will say something and it's so mean and hurtful, but then when you talk to them about it, they say, I'm so sorry, I had no idea. Last time I said it, you laughed, so I thought it was kind of an inside joke now. Communication is hard when it's never been ingrained in you properly. Adulting is hard. You get, you know, I'm sorry, I gotta say it. It's a skill, baby. You gotta get those experience points, baby. You know how you get those experience points? By communicating.
Hello, I'm here for my daily communication. I'm trying to level up to communication level 3. Please communicate with me.